Well, there was a fisherman who went fishing one morning and he caught a talking fish. And the fish started talking to him and started to bargain with him and said, "Look, if you could just put me back in the water, I can make it worth your while. Only thing is, you got to promise never to tell about me being a talking fish." And he went on bargaining, and eventually the man said, "Okay," and he threw the fish back. And he was going back to his house and he was wondering what he was going to tell his wife since he didn't have any fish for them to eat. But when he got back to his house, his little old shack was replaced by a huge mansion, a gorgeous, large mansion with many rooms and beautiful appointments. And there was a huge table with all kinds of food in pretty silver dishes. And his wife was flabbergasted. She said, "Where did it all come from? Where did this house come from? Where did the food come from?" But he just kind of smiled because he knew he wasn't supposed to tell. But later on that night, she kind of kept at him while they were talking in bed. "Well, what was it? How did it? I can tell you no. Why don't you tell me what happened?" And finally, he just gave up and he told her it was a talking fish that did it. Well, the minute he did that, the whole house just vanished and it went back to the little shack with no food in it. The next day, he went fishing again. And as luck would have it, he caught that same fish again. And the fish started bargaining again. He said, "Look, you put me back and I can really make it worth your while. But remember, you really got to not tell about me being a talking fish." Well, finally he said, "Okay." And he threw the fish back and he was going back to his house. And sure enough, that house had gotten replaced with a huge mansion once again, beautiful table filled with all kinds of delicacies and appetizers and desserts and all kinds of fancy things. And his wife said, "Well, what was it this time? What was it? Was it something else, or what was it?" And she kept on after him, and he wasn't going to tell her because he knew what was going to happen. But she kept on, really just kind of nagging him. And finally, late that night, he just snapped and said it was that talking fish again. Well, of course, at that moment, the whole house flipped back to the little shack with no food in it. Well, the next day, he went fishing again. It will not surprise you to learn he caught the same fish again. This time, the fish said, "Forget it. I'm done. Just take me home and eat me. I've had it, right? Let's go." And so he took him back to the house and gave him to his wife. Now, he didn't tell her that that was the talking fish. He just gave her the fish. And she cooked it up and she ate it up. He wasn't going to eat it. I mean, would you eat a talking fish? It'd be like eating a person, right? So she ate it up and she seemed fine. But about a year later, she gave birth to two boys, and they were twin boys, and they were fine, but they were golden, completely covered in gold from top to bottom. Other than that, they were good boys. They were fine boys, and fisherman was proud of them, and they loved them, but they were golden. And that fisherman thought to himself, "I know that it was something about that talking fish that made those boys go golden." Well, you know how it is with people; they tease people, who were different. And these golden boys got teased, and everybody would make funny jokes about them being golden, right? "I hear all that glitters isn't gold. Ha ha ha. So funny. You guys trying to find Fort Knox?" Just cruel things that people would say, the mean-spirited thing. Well, one of the boys got so tired of being teased, he started hiding in the barn loft in their barn. He just hid up there. And the other boy went out and he ended up just hiding in the woods. He found a big, thick, bushy area where it was so bushy he could get back there, and he would get all the leaves over him so there wasn't a little bit of gold you could see. Well, about that time, a pretty girl came by, and she could see something was back in that bush, and she got scared. She thought it was a bear, and she screamed. And he jumped out and said, "Don't be afraid, it's only me." Well, she was silenced by the golden boy, but didn't say anything about his being golden. And they started to talk. Well, I said she was a pretty girl, and she was, and he kind of started falling in love with her. And as they got to know each other, she never said anything about him being golden, which just made him love her all the more. Well, eventually he asked her to marry him, and she said she would. So they got married on their wedding day, and that night, it was their wedding night. You know, this was the old days, right? So this was the first time. And before they got into bed, she said she had a secret to tell him. And the secret was that when she gets into bed, she turns golden. And they got into bed, and she turned completely golden too. And they were golden together. Well, this happy couple lived together and were happy with each other, but the boy started missing his golden brother. You remember the brother, right? So he started looking for him and searching for him. Well, the golden brother had moved from the barn loft to a pad of lilies. They were golden lilies. And he would hide down in those golden lilies because you couldn't see him because he was the same color as the lily. But his brother saw him right away and said, "Come on out of there, brother." And he took him home to his wife. They took some of those lilies from that golden lily pad back to the house, and they planted those lilies there. And that's where the golden boys and the pretty girl lived. My story is called The Golden Boys. Thank you. I was from Marie Campbell's Tales from the Cloud Walking Country that I'm having a lot of fun with these days. Appalachian folktale.